All right, so this is the after chapter discussion for 9.49. We'll be talking about it. We'll do some discussion questions, but first off, let's just go through what people thought about the chapter overall. What were you guys' general impressions? Any thoughts you had overall that you want to share? If you don't want to talk, go ahead and just type in ACD reactions comments, and I'll read them out. Otherwise, just ping me, and you can speak whenever. Saitama, you're in the wrong chat, but you can speak next. I think many of you might know that I like Kolth. He's a cool character, but a lot of people in the past have thought that Kolth is very sus. And this chapter lays to bed some of the wild conspiracy theories that go around about Kolth. Such as him being Roshal's slave master, which, just I can't even get into how wrong that is. And now we know for a fact that he's not with Rochelle. He's very much against Rochelle, which is great. It's great. I like it. We can finally get past that stage where everyone's like, oh, he's actually with Rochelle. I hope. That's what I can hope after this chapter. But yeah, other than that, I really enjoyed the chapter. We got to see named ranked Kolth going and fighting, though he was pretty callous in how he brought along Pisces and didn't give him any kinds of heads up. He just brought him along to a slave den and had him help him kill all the slavers, which is. It's pretty callous. Let's not get it wrong. That is definitely a callous move. But overall, still love Kolth. Kolth is cool. This chapter was cool. We got to see some of what happened with Stalker's hide too. I'm excited to see what how that helps them out. But yeah, Sidehammer, general impression, go.
This chapter felt like another Linu chapter. Everything was so meta, it hurt. It was just going. Everything about this stupid sus thing. Oh my god, I was so over that, and then it was in the freaking story, and then I hated it even more. I was not a fan of that. It was very silly. It took me out of the story every time I saw the words. It was funny at first, and then it just. I honestly wish it wasn't in there, but I'm sure a lot of people had fun with it. Wasn't something I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the banter with the horns. That was always good. The progression with the spells. Syria learning about or finding Sylvania's message in the ice. That was very interesting. I liked under Checker or the hide tendon guy, or the leather guy. That was fun, and I'm interested in seeing what's going on, how that'll go on, and the type of gear they'll end up with, and the real effects that they'll have. That's just pretty interesting. I was so taken out of the story with all the stuff. It was hard to. I didn't really get into the fight scene. It was just a fight scene to me. So it wasn't a big thing. Kolth is a little more, I guess, callous than I thought he would be. He was definitely. I mean, I knew he had it in him, just because named ranked. Because everyone who goes name ranked is something like that. So it didn't surprise me. I liked how he what do you call it? Provoked the attack on him to say, they hit me first, or they attacked me first, or whatnot. But I thought it was kind of a dick thing to do to Pisces, and he just kind of strong armed him over there. I think I kind of like Colt a little less now, but overall, they haven't changed. Feelings haven't changed that much. Just I wish the sus thing was not happening. But yeah, that's my impression.
I didn't get the same feeling as you from the whole suspicious thing, especially because honestly, I felt it was a rather small part of the chapter. There was just like one little bit about it, and then at the end, Cole kind of flips it around and says the horns are suspicious. But it really didn't feel like it dominated the chapter for me, at least. We just had Saria basically say she found him suspicious and Kiss him for said it as well, but that was just like a couple paragraphs. So, it's always interesting to kind of see how meta knowledge colors your perspective, because I don't think if you didn't have meta knowledge about the server and how people kind of treat Colt as suspicious, like I don't think you would even notice that they mentioned Colt was suspicious like a couple times. Like I don't
I
think
totally agree. I totally
it
agree.
it just like it colors your perspective a lot, just knowing how the community is and kind of drawing your own conclusions from what you see actually happens at the chapter,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm almost convinced that this whole sus thing started with like Pirate writing it on stream once and deleting it, and then everyone just started saying it
Oh
because I
no,
didn't
no,
understood
no.
I never understood where it came from. It was just silly.
It
So
it just
I
started in it started in chat basically, like as soon as we saw Kolth, like the first chapter we got Kolth in, like a real chapter we got Kolth in, where he was kind of introduced more than just his name. Like people immediately called him suspicious. Like I don't know why. I think it's simply because he smiles a lot and he's nice to people, and so they immediately assume something's wrong with him. Like,
that's
but that
weird.
wasn't that wasn't something that was Pirate Abba.
Okay.
Like that wasn't something that Pirate Abba joked about and chat went off with it.
I mean, he was weird enough. I mean, he has the board game. He's doing the D&D thing with the ability scores and ability checks and whatnot. So I thought he had a gimmick enough with that. So then he became sus and just kind of threw everything out of. And then of course everyone likes to meme about it, and I just kind of got really bored with it. But yeah, I definitely would have different feelings if I wasn't aware of
Yeah.
the meme. But yeah,
But on your other points, I definitely enjoyed the. Sorry, I definitely enjoyed the banter too. It was good. I loved it. It's always fun to uh, see the horns having banter. Just a fun time. And yeah, Saria's message with the horn with Sylvania, or sorry, Sylvia Saria. Wow, I'm combining their names. Saria finding Sylvania's message, I should say, is really cool because it's it's interesting to see what Sylvania could, what would she send her? What is she going to say? I hope we get into that next chapter or in the near future. And yeah, thank you for your thoughts, Sidehammer. Wavu says he was sus before because he carried a Rochelle brand. Actually, wrong. We only learned about the Rochelle brand at the end of what was it, Adventures Part 2 or Adventures Part 1? People thought he was sus as soon as he was introduced in 9.24. Like they were calling him sus before we saw the Rochelle brand. And that Rochelle brand was kind of vindication for some people that he wasn't indeed sus, even though it's a broken brand. And why would a slaver have a broken brand when he could have a full brand? Whatever. Or how he knows Azam, and he told Pisces he knows Azam, and Pisces is completely fine with his presence. Whatever. Those things don't matter. He's still sus. Anyways.
Oh, also learning that he's actually with the demons is surprising,
Yeah.
but cool.
Well, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sidehammer. Let's do some more comments. Mystical Pie says, I love the horns and cults, so this was a great chapter for me. Glad to finally see confirmation that he's a demon. It was cool to see the horns start to learn unstructured magic and get intertwined with the demons. Yeah, like Sidehammer just said, we saw him confirmed as a demon. That was a theory that quite a few people had over time, and it was one theory that I was behind too. My other theory is he's an ex-slave, which I still think is pretty good bet right now. But yeah, it was really good to see some of Colt's backstory, and just getting more horns, always nice. Horns are great characters, and it's just fun to see them. On that note, Kel says Pisces is now an official horn as he lost fingers, even if temporarily. They were still attached to his body, Kel. I'm not sure if it counts. They were still there on his body, even if they were dangling. Ugh. That must have hurt like hell. Must have hurt really badly. But thank you, Kel.
I love that the spell had an actual kinetic backfire.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how spells are like the structured spells basically account for a lot more than you would actually think. All right, Rhythm and Bruce, go ahead.
All right. Yep. I also pretty much really enjoyed this chapter quite a bit. That people talking and learning things is kind of fantastic. So this whole learning magic, I think that we're setting up for volume 10 and or volume 11 as given how these things unfold of unwinding demons and blighted kingdom, which is kind of exciting after first getting into this conflict back in the early days of 4-digit chapter lengths. And so it's kind of nice to see that getting set up and dribbled out. So I really like that. I think that that resolving Cole's thing was good. I think that so my take on his being suspicious comes not from the Russell brand, not from anything else. It came from his being this people person who is friendly towards anyone but gives so little of himself away that it has this feeling of not really knowing where he's coming from. And it turns out there are good reasons for this. Like you don't necessarily want to go around to all and sundry going, hello, I'm affiliated with the demons. May or may not be one myself, but I'm on their side and talk to them regularly, and we're on each other's Christmas lists. So it makes some sense for him, but that's where I came from in that sense of I don't know who he's working for or what he really wants out of life. And so that kind of made that. So that's where it came from for me for why I was somewhat nervous around him for up until this point. And now, given the way that he interacted with Pisces on it, I'm still a little nervous around him, but not because I think he's got the wrong goals or is going to be on the wrong side of things. And I kind of approve of that. So I don't know why most of the community thought had it beyond it's a meme, but to me it felt like a pretty natural growth of given his actions what people might think. So to me at least it didn't really have to do a lot of fourth walling. It was just people think this given what they're interacting and given that the horns are kind of suspicious of everyone because they've had a lot of bad experiences. So that's where it came from me. It was fun to see. The thing that I really want to see out of Colt is see him as an actual supporter, because he's with the horns, and a lot of other people he's been kind of their superior in experience and so forth. So he's less of what I think of as a supporter and more of his trainer. And so I kind of want to see what he's actually like as a support person on a team. And that was where I was thinking about this chapter. I had fun.
All right, thank you, Rhythm. On the supporter point, I think it's kind of hard at this point for him to be a true behind the line supporter, or I don't want to say lackey. I want to say like second in command. With the horns, he can't really do it simply because he outlevels them, he out experiences them, and he just knows what needs to be done better than them. So he is teaching them, but that's another way of supporting them. And
it is
to see him in more of a supportive role, we would need to see him, more along the lines in a team with Elder Tuin and other named ranks, where he can take a ancillary role much better than other people, simply because they're all kind of the same level. They're at the same level in terms of power, so he can take that role more easily.
Absolutely. I'm more commenting. I don't think that he should have done this so far. I'm more commenting that I kind of want to see what his role looks like in that environment that we haven't gotten to see.
Yeah. And it certainly is something that Colt is someone who can have a lot of variety in what he does in terms of adventuring, and that's always exciting to see. It's one of the reasons why I like his character. A supporter character is just a cool character in my mind. On your other point about people kind of feeling he's friendly but doesn't give anything away, so they found him suspicious, I think that's probably where a lot of people are coming from with his initial introduction. They weren't getting a lot of his personality, like his true personality shown. They were just getting what he shows to people to be friendly with them. And so that is probably one of the reasons why people found him suspicious to start with. Let me just read some of these, and then we'll get to you, Mario. Mystical Pie says, Cole talked about a past life as a Rochelle, and he hates slavers. I feel like him being a slave isn't a bad bet. Exactly, yeah. And there's a few other things as well that point to that, I feel like. Crunk says, I think supporter is more of an ironic name, like Lil Jon and Robin Hood. Carrier would be more accurate now. It could be, you're right, but it still fills a similar role in that he is supporting them. He is. And Mario says support carry can be a thing. Yeah, it's not totally unheard of. Anyways, Mario, you wanted to speak.
Yes, Wills. It was a really good chapter. Especially the dynamic that Pieces and Cold have. It was really impressive to me for shipping purposes, but let's ignore that for the moment. Another thing that I really liked it was when Cold and Pieces went to to go kill the slavers. That scene in particular and the whole sequence really remind me of, for example, the commitment that Pirate built with Casimir. Casimir. Oh, I forgot how to pronounce his name. When that time when the horns were just being created and Casimir and they got jailed, but Casimir was free, and so he went to the bandits just to make that commitment to show his attachment or his compromise with the team. Here is quite a little bit different because it's more like a commitment to check to see the moral character of Colt, and we know that he's not going to compromise. He's going to be an enemy to the slavers and to Rochelle, and that's a really interesting scene. And I agree that right now Colt has taken the role of a mentor, but I think it's just natural because, as you say, the horns are in an inferior level than him, and I think that Colt as a supporter is more like if you think it of like chess, it will be like the queen. It has really impressive range of movement, but it's a really simple piece in some ways. So and it can feel a lot of movement have like a really huge effect in many different scenarios. So I just think that if we were to put Colt in a tier, he will be an S tier in utility. But anyways, that's what I think. It's a really good chapter. I was really excited. I really like that way of I really like a good old massacre. It just released my dopamine in my brain. So that's it.
Thank you, Marios. And you're absolutely right. Colt is not sus anymore. Everyone should know. We all got it. It's hammered into our heads, I hope. But yeah, you're absolutely right that if Colt, like if there was a ranking of anything, and Colt is definitely one of the best in terms of utility. It just comes from the fact that he seems to have mentored under so many different kinds of classes, and he's gotten so many different kinds of low level skills. And that would not be an easy thing to do in combat. It's not easy to come up with skill utilizations in combat if you have 100 or 300 or whatever, how many skills, a ton of different skills. It's really hard to just come up with a way to use that in combat. So the fact that he can do that, and the fact that he's like built up his entire class around using a lot of lower level skills to get very unique effects is very impressive, and it makes him a very cool character to me. But we shouldn't be talking too much about Colt. Also, not Pirate Abba, is talking in the live chat, and they say, did I mention that the bar scene was intended for the new lands? Initially, Colt would walk into a new bar where Roshal's slavers were gathering, and Gamur happened to be around. But this is better because it had Pisces and people were sussing too hard, so I felt it worked here. Have I disrupted you adequately? Yes, that is. I do think it works really well here in terms of just how it fits into the chapter. I don't think it's too early, or I don't know how it would have worked in the new lands, but I think having Pisces along with it and seeing its impact on Pisces with Colt there, it's a good addition here. But I think that's it for general impressions. Oh wait, a few other things. Crunk says it's rare but true for the support carry comment Mario made, and Sidehammer says copying Mahala's skills against Face Stealer was pretty cool that time. Yeah, it really was. And that's one of those things you would expect him to do as more of a real supporter role, is being an amplifier for someone who's already powerful. But he's level 46, 47 or something like that. So he can't be an amplifier as well for people that are significantly lower level than him, which 10 level difference is a significant difference. And part of it is saying more things in ACD Live chat. I guess I'll just read them out. They say, I forgot to write in and ask the spoilers or whatever, so that's a note for me. Abrupt descriptive violence was the way I thought of the bar fight scene. Also, Mario's just an average tunnel user. Shoe. Mystical Pie says, that's interesting. I think it works really well that everything is kind of out there now before they fully move into the Crossroads/Newlands. And Paradise says, better yet, make TWI popular in Tumblr with insane ships. That's the thing they do. Give me popularity without the craziness. Engaged, I don't know what the heck that word is. On-sellers? On-crellers? On-sellers? I don't know.
Oncelers? I don't know. That's a weird word.
Oncelers. It's a Dr. Seuss thing.
Okay.
Oh.
I had no idea I have never watched. Well, I've watched like a couple episodes of Doctor Seuss, but I don't know anything about their fandom.
This is really
Okay.
surreal for me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Part of it is distracting us. Rhythm Brew says, I felt like having Pisces along and the way that Colt did that changed some impressions of his character. Yeah, I think it definitely showed, as I mentioned before, it showed a very callous approach to how he was going to do this. He didn't inform Pisces at all about what his intentions were. Uh, he didn't get Pisces' consent at all, and he kind of just threw him into the deep end on something he knew was going to be very traumatic for Pisces and potentially very dangerous. But yeah, it did show some parts of his character we hadn't seen before. Bookcase says, I think that was intentional because the Truth Zone's got to cover his bases. That could be part of it. Yeah, you're right, Bookcase. That could definitely be part of it.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic that Kolth just actually grabbed Pisces, but also assured him that he wasn't in danger,
Yeah.
which was really interesting. And like as a side point, I think it's obvious. It's obviously messed up that like he brought him into the situation and he was going to force him to kill people. But I think it's definitely one of those moments that is a small building block towards Pisces being named rank in his self. Because there's no way Rochal wasn't eventually going to come from him anyway. And now
Yeah.
that they know that he's basically allied with Kolth, I think that'll also be a big deterrent in itself.
It could be. It's interesting to think about what Rochal actually considers Kolth, because they seem to have some wariness in his direction, but if Kolth has actually covered his tracks as well as he lets on, he hasn't actually appeared as actually anti-Rochelle. He's just gotten into, quote unquote situations where he could uh, get in and actually start killing random slavers in his land. But I don't know if they consider him a real known, anti-Rochelle dissident or whatever. But it's interesting to kind of see how he gets away with it. Bouquet says he's a known threat that will fuck up any slave party he can get a legal access. Sorry. He's a known threat that will fuck up any slaver party he can get a legal excuse to go after. That's kind of true. Well, it's very true that he will go after any slaver party he can, but I don't know if Rochal sees him in that light. Like, I'm not sure if they have like a note on him.
Don't you think they have to when
They might.
when they directly like in the warning said don't make Kolth mad, even though like they initially reported like they thought they were going to worry about Pisces, and then the message back was actually worried about Kolth. So I think that definitely leads to like them having a history of him with Rochal.
So I do think that he has a history with Rochal, but I just don't think he's like known as anti-Rochal. I think maybe Rochal thinks instead he's, just a straight up a murderer. Like they think he's a serial killer or something, and he's very touchy, and he'll take any opportunity to kill anyone who slightly screws with him, because that's kind of how he did it here. He got them to punch him, and then, or not punch him, sorry. He got them to try and stab him with just one of the guards, and then he immediately goes and starts killing every single person in the Rochal's party. So I think Rochal has like had incidences with him in the past, but I don't know if they specifically know he's anti-Rochal. Bookcase says, I bet whatever he got that broken band from is related to why he is infamous to Rochal. The Naga must, if no one else. He could. You're right. The Naga is very knowledgeable about a lot of stuff. Rosamund Brew says, I'm certain Rochal knows he's anti-them. They have to know he doesn't do this to absolutely everyone. Rochal's intelligence is not that bad. That's true. That's true. I'm just trying to think of like why they wouldn't go after him more so than we've seen, you know? Okay. Okay, Saul says, I wonder if Colt learned about the Naga's hound from Steve. He could have. You know, they were well, no, Colt was already in the New Lands. Never mind. Oh wait. Steve did come to sorry, not the New Lands, the Median tribe, so they could have talked, you're right. Steve might have passed along that little bit of information. We don't know. Alright. I think that's it for general impressions. We talked a bit more about other stuff too. Let's see some good questions. I'll just do a big one. How do you think Pisces is going to deal with what just happened? Can slaughter slavers help him process and heal? Will a changed mindset and an active retribution against him have an effect on his slave class? Also, badass new magic. Can he finally make the jump to level 40? So this is a big question. I do think, obviously, him going after, like actively going after slavers, it's going to have some impact on him. I don't know if it'll be good impact, but at the same time, he's been thinking about going after slavers for a long time now. And I don't see any other path for him other than he is going to be an actual force against slavers in the future, and he's going to do everything in his power to do it. So I think this was just a first step for him in that process, and I don't know if it will help him like actually deal with his thoughts on what happened to him. You know, I don't think that killing people is generally a great way to go about getting over your trauma, but it could have some effect on his slave class eventually. I feel like that might be one of the few ways that he could actually get rid of it and become something else. You know, maybe he'll combine with his normal class and get rid of slave and transform into rebel or something. But yeah. And as to level 40 comment, I don't think this is enough to get him to level 40. I think he's still a bit away from that, but it's getting closer. It's getting closer all the time. We'll get there. Maybe at the end of the volume. Maybe close to the end of the volume. Or it could be next volume. Who knows? Wovlu, you wanted to speak.
I wanted to say that I think Pisces is like dangerously close to going down like the name break route that we learned about, where name breaks are all insane, and if he like indulges in killing slavers, even though he hates them for sure, it'll like push him towards being insane. And I think Cole is probably aware of it. It seems like something that a lot of name drinks, like every name drink we've seen, is somewhat aware of how crazy they've become. And yeah, I agree that it's not healthy for Pisces, but I think Colt was also being like, hey, if you do go down this route, make sure to follow the laws and be attacked first. And he's kind of like showing the ropes.
Yeah, serial killer's a guide to how to avoid the law, you know? But yeah, Pisces is definitely someone who could reach named rank in both mentality and just skill. I think he could have, like, even at the beginning of the story, that kind of seed was in him from the very start. He's always been someone who pushes the boundaries in many different ways, and yeah, I definitely do think he will get the named ranked someday, and this shows that he can. Bouquet says, get him that rebel class to get rid of slave. Yeah, that's one of the ways I see it going. Though he still hasn't gotten it, whereas quite a few of his friends, ex-slaves, have got rebel and have already done that. So there seems to be some mental hang-up that he hasn't been able to get over and actually push past still having the class. I assume he still has the class, by the way. We haven't heard about it in quite a long time. So maybe he's gotten rid of it and we just don't know, but I won't assume that at this point. Mystical Pie says, I think Kolth is developing Pisces insanity in preparation for becoming named Drake. Yeah. That's an interesting way to think about it. Just actually prepare his insanity so he can become named rank. I don't know if that's exactly what he's doing, but it's an interesting thought. Bouquet says, thoughts on him consolidating duelist class in the mage for 40? Would it be just be slave / something else? I don't know if we're gonna get a duelist consolidation at 40. I think all the horns right now have been given secondary classes, and I also think that like the soonest they'll get those secondary classes to like consolidate is when they reach 50 eventually. I think those secondary classes have been just have been set up for like they were given to the horns as setup for future growth, future ways that they all can become more than they are now. Mario says, I don't think killing them is going to be positive. His healing will start when he gets his Chandrar group to Israel. I think these fights against slavers will make his duelist class evolve into a certain type of warrior that can disrupt their skills or something of that sort. It would be actually really cool to see like an anti-mage warrior dual class with a mage, that kind of covers a lot of bases right there. If you could even have that kind of dual skills / dual classes. Bouquet says, in 9.31, he felt close to the frame himself when he accepted the duels class. He raised his arm and stared at his rapier. He still felt the memory of chains. Perhaps they were lighter today. Perhaps he was closer to breaking them for good. And that's a good mention. I had forgot about that line. So it does seem like he still has the class, and it does seem like he still has some mental hangups around still thinking of himself as a slave. Krunk says, it could be because the Naga hasn't released Pisces formally from slavery. To him, the sale went through and he just needs to collect. He's a really high-level slave lord. Who knows? That's a good point. Just the fact that someone still considers him their slave and they're a high-level person might makes it much more difficult for him to remove the class entirely. Sidehammer says, I think Pisces will be like Aaron in that he reaches the highest heights without traveling the known path without being insane. I think we've been told so many times how to be named that I think it's meant to be subverted. Well, yeah, but being insane is like a very broad stroke kind of thing. Even if you just have one weird quirk, you can still be labeled as, quote unquote insane. I don't know if Sidehammer just typed broken instead of insane. And yeah, but I mean, at the same time, Pisces is already pretty broken, even if he's healing. But yeah, we'll see where Pisces go. We'll see where all the horns go. I don't have a doubt that the horns will one day be named. I think that is absolutely going to happen. They're closing in. Kel says, well, if he can be an anti-undead necromancer, he can be an anti-spellcaster. Well, yeah, that's true, but I meant more along the lines of literally having like an anti-mage warrior class, like an actual anti-mage, if you catch my drift. Like how Zell had anti-magic slash or something like that. Like that kind of skill while also being a mage. I wonder if that would work.
Like a spellbreaker class?
Yeah, something like that. Because they seem diametrically opposed to one another. So I wonder if it's even possible. But it's a good call out that he is an anti-undead necromancer, even if he still uses undead. Bookcase says, unrelated side note to Pisces trying to speed up bolt magic. Remind me the burst finger flicking skill Deku has in MHA. I'm going to be honest here, Bookcase. I don't like My Hero Academy, okay? We're not going to discuss it. It's awful. I'm just kidding. I don't like it, but yeah, they might have got Pineapple might have gotten inspiration from that. You never know. They read a lot. They get inspiration from a lot of different things. All right. I think Mario is still typing. I'll let them finish up, and then we'll move on to another question. Mario says, "Nah." Okay. Okay. We'll move on to another question.
I was typing, but I didn't like what I was making.
Okay. It's okay. I do that too. Okay, let's go to Saria now. Saria has now a unique chance to learn from the greatest mage in the world. How important is it going to be for her development as a mage, both in her leveling and just overall skill? How long will that chance exist? Sylvania likes her, but will she take her in future as her new quasi-apprentice, or just give her a tip or two? Lastly, will Saria get to level 40 thanks to Sylvania's pro tips? I don't even. What level is Saria right now? I feel like Saria was one of the lower level horns, actually.
I thought it was 38 last I saw, but I
38?
I could be wrong.
I'm on the wiki right now. The last Arctic Cryomancer level we saw for her was 35, actually. She'd gotten level 10 in Prankster, but 35 was the last Cryomancer. So she's a good 5. Well, that was a while ago, though. Cryomancer, the last Cryomancer leveling event we saw was quite a while. So she might have gotten some Cryomancer levels. Like the level 35 was in 8.19H, and it's been a few million words since then, and Saria has done quite a few things. So she might have leveled between then and now, but I don't think she's as close as 40 as Pisces. Kissimver is probably pretty far as well. It's actually pretty surprising to me that Yvonne was the one who reached it first. I would have expected Pisces, but yeah, I think that I don't think she will get to 40 based on Sylvania's tips, whatever those are. It's really cool though to see that Sylvania is like trying to leave something in the outside world, despite the demon or the blighted kingdom, just trying to box them in. She finds little tiny ways to get around that. And we already saw. Wait, was that this chapter? I hope this. I'm trying to figure out if I'm thinking of the stream or if I'm thinking of this chapter. I'm pretty sure it's this chapter. But yeah, it was this chapter. But we already saw them, having a big impact just from knowing that, unstructured magic can do something very different from structured magic. And Pisces was coming to a conclusion already, but this spell kind of pushed him over the edge, and that might have been an unintended consequence that Sylvania was not thinking of when she originally did this. But it's already something that's benefited them. All right, let's look at some comments. Okay, says all Wistrom mages are the apprentice of a true Wistrom archmage. What? I don't know what you mean by that, Bookcase. Anyways, Mystical Pie says, I don't think we know. All right, thank you, Pie. Bookcase also says, She has been power leveling Prankster. She can learn spells better / faster now because of the circlet, but I bet it makes her actual leveling a lot slower, as we have seen with people like Gazzy. And yeah, this a very, it's something we, it hasn't been explicitly mentioned in the narration, but it's something that a lot of people have had theories on. Some people say that because she can learn faster and more spells now, that she'll level actually faster. But I think you're more on the right track, Bookcase, that the fact that the circlet boosts her abilities so much means that she's going to struggle more to get the higher levels simply because that circlet is carrying a lot of the weight, and it's not as impressive because she has a circlet. Kel says, if anything, it'll probably be more like Pisces and Ask Crash. The occasional hint or tip to help her improve or progress, but no direct instruction. Yeah, that's a good point. Unless Sylvania actually teleports Saria and the horns to Rahir and to Demon Kingdom and actually, makes them into demons, there's very little opportunity for Sylvania to have a direct apprenticeship over someone outside of the Demon Kingdom. Even with message spells, obviously, or any other kind of communication, it's very difficult for her. So I think you're definitely right that if it happened, it'd be more of a Pisces Ass Crash situation. Bookcase explains their apprentice thing by saying, like how Sylvania called Maris an apprentice. And then there's a quote from chat there. And the quote says, so, there's someone qualified to call themselves an Archmage of Wistrom. Hello, apprentice. Who are you? Maris of Chandrar. All right, I get it now. Bookcase, thank you. Krunk says, I think it's likely higher levels in Wistrom teach this type of spell casting. Then it would certainly be plausible that Zelkir has spell backfire that either kill him or put him in a magic coma. And yeah, that probably is some of the stuff you would find in the upper floors of Wistrom. It doesn't make sense to kind of put that magic behind a higher entry or a higher barrier of entry, simply because it's much more difficult to do than normal spell casting or mage, bracketed spell casting. That kind of spell casting, it has built-in limiters, has built-in things that do a bunch of stuff you don't need to care about because the spell itself does it for you. So starting out with that does make sense, and then moving on to customization and being able to affect things directly is a very high level kind of skill. And Rhythm Brews, you want to speak?
Yeah, so I had a thought on the Wistrom. I don't know what Wistrom did before, but I remember that that Eldivan, I can't remember if this was before or after the break from being Terriarch happened. I think it was after, though. Wait, can't remember which one, but anyway, he was teaching outside the box system casting, or at least the principles of it, to Trey and other sort of apprentice level people at Wistrom, because they had the whole conversation about how you can do system things, spells, by just exerting your will and mana and building it all up manually. But for some inexplicable reason, it's cheaper to do it as a system because the system makes it easier and faster and cheaper to do the same thing. But you can also do it. So it's, I don't know if that was a thing that before him Wistrom taught, but it's at least making the rounds outside it. I think that it's kind of interesting that when Pisces is doing it, though, he's not doing it completely outside the system because he's still casting a bracketed, bone bolt, whatever spell. It still comes off as that bracketed spell with the same name. It's just he's managed to change all the variables so it's like half system casting or advanced user system casting or something that he's doing, which I thought was kind of interesting. As far as Slovenia, I think Slovenia knows enough. One, as you point out, she's not going to be able to take on a sort of a direct apprentice in that way. And two, she knows enough about leveling. It's going to be more at best go find that thing. That'll help. Or here, go into the crossroads. Whee! So that's not going to hold her back. And I think the circlet will hold her back if she does the same things that you do without it. If she then says, well, now I have a circlet. Now I can dual Irix for control of shift hold. She'll still level pretty fast. Those my thoughts on Saria spellcasting and whatnot.
Yeah, thank you, Eartham. I believe the conversation you were talking about took place before Eldavin had his nasty head injury and, kind of stopped thinking of himself as a dragon. I believe it was before that. And yeah, it did show that, he's kind of reintroducing that whole modified your spells with kind of unstructured magic as well. And I do wonder at the same time if, your thought on the whole, it's still a bracketed bone dart, even though he's modifying it a lot. Like, I wonder if it still saves mana. That would be interesting if it still is inexplicably giving you, using less mana for whatever reason. Mario says, Linu RP, Sylvania is best possible sensei for Saria. I'm sure what she learns will give her a new light to examine the cryo book when she gets it back, as Sylvania is the most illustrious, elegant mage in the story. You forgot to put in a few nyas or, caps lock or anything like that, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I would say like a 7 out of 10 impression. Kel says, I'm kind of hoping that Sylvania decides to make a show of good faith / trust to Aaron and does so by hauling Pisces' friends to the inn from Chandra. What? Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. I don't know. Like, I don't know if she could. Like, that would paint a target on their backs as we saw in 9.46, doing anything like overtly like helpful like that could really backfire on the people being helped, because they could just get a torture squad sent after them. And I believe that if she literally teleported or whatever she does to get them from Chandra to the Wandering Inn, I think that's too overt of an action that it would get too much notice on Pisces' friends and the Wandering Inn, for that matter. Because why are they being sent to the Wandering Inn? Someone would ask that, or the investigators would ask that. But maybe one day she'll do it. Maybe one day. Mario says there's only one Linu. It's very, very true. Linu is very unique. Bookcase says, plus it's good practice for Pisces to use this ritual on a summon across the world. Long-range casting. It is good practice. Just, at possibly the cost of his friends' lives. Kel says, because they're friends of Pisces and they were last going to Kelt, which is a known ally of the inn, I just want Rofir, the poor kid, to get to the inn and join the Chaos crew and get to be a child for a while. Yeah. Rofir is so sad. I miss Rofir. He was a good little kid. I want more Rofir. I want more Ivory. Ivory is a good little kid too. We could have gotten more Strongest, by the way, but the polls are going against my favor, and so we're probably not going to hear about the Strongest for a couple months. And that means we probably won't hear about Pisces friends for a couple months. And it's sad. Kel says, "Don't forget Bare Bones." I'm definitely gonna forget Bare Bones because Bare Bones is not a thinking undead. How about that? Mario says, "It is Pride Month." It is Pride Month. I guess that does give. That might have actually gotten Ilveris a boost. I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about whether or not that actually gave Ilveris a boost in voting power. Tavares says, Bare Bones X Ivory. Okay, what? No. How? No. And Wovu says, Ivory got upgrades. Yeah, he deserves all the upgrades. All of them. All right, let's go to, I think we'll do one more question. And then I'm going to have to end it. But let's just do this one. I'm putting it off because I think some of you might still say sus, but Bookcase replied to the Bare Bones X Ivory by saying, "Bony boys boning down." I think we should ban Bookcase. Yeah, I think we should. It's probably good if we ban him. All right. Okay. Thoughts now that Kolth's true self was shown in this chapter. Is he sus? Is he not sus? Let's get it out there. If any of you say Kolth is still sus, we're gonna have some words. But I'll save my words for later. Wovwu, you want to speak?
So I was going to say that Kolth was sus before Pirate Ava came in and then started posting explicitly that Kolth is not sus. This chapter definitely did a lot to make me think he wasn't as sus. But now that Pirate Ava has more or less explicitly said, no, he's not sus, I'm just, you got to go with the writer there. The writer said it.
I hate you, Wovwu. I hate you.
I had a whole theory in mind of how this thing went and how Kolth was marinating Pisces and everything. But no, Pirate Ava just came in and was like, "Listen, guys, I he's not sus," and then I have to accept it. This is the reality I live in now. This is the timeline.
The story told you that explicitly. I don't know.
Okay, here's it was partially the Rochelle brand thing that made me think he was sus, because I feel like he should have definitely, if you wanted to convey that he hated slavers, you could have done it better than him using their tool. But even more than that, I just on a meta level, I'm like, okay, well, there's this villain that we're supposed to think is he's declared himself to be on par with the dead gods. How does he become a villain? And I thought, oh, Kolth. Kolth is already set up to attack someone that the fans love. He's got to be with the slavers. But then this chapter happened, and so yeah.
Oh, I'm so sad, Wofu. I'm so sad. Ugh. I won't get into why I'm sad, but I'm sad. Wofu, you made me sad. Tavar says,
I can live with that.
Okay. Tavar says, "It's not a surprise. Thank you, Tavar. You're a good bean." Bookcase says, "His smile is creepy, sus. His smile might be considered creepy. It's not suspicious, though. He just has, a creepy smile sometimes." Bookcase also says, "Everyone agrees. Everyone does not agree." And Mystical Pie says, "I'm not surprised he's a demon, but I'm interested in seeing if he was a demon before his stint in Roshala, if he joined them after." I kind of think he joined them after. As we saw with Kazatha and Pisces, the Demon Kingdom has an active presence in actually freeing slaves. And what we just saw with Kolth, freeing these slaves. If one of those slaves goes out into the world and is like, okay, I wanna get behind this whole anti-slavery movement, I think they would be led to the Demon Kingdom. I think that's where they have feelers out in the world, is anti-slavery. Rhythm Brews, you want to speak?
So an interesting thing was a question about Colt being, a demon, or whether he was a demon before. I don't think I would classify anyone who's associated with the Demon Kingdom as a demon. I thought specifically that demons are the people who are these kind of people with mutations and things, horns and things when they're not minotaurs and so forth that have variances in form from their species. And so I guess there's some chance that he's that too, but I think I would draw a distinction between demon as a categorization of a person and someone who is associated or even allied with the demon kingdom. So that's my first thought on that. I think that there's you can take heart in the people who still believe Colt is sus, because if you may not be his overall agenda may be fine. If in a fight to the death, he's on your side, but you still might not want to go drinking with him. If he invites you drinking, you think twice. You think that's and maybe check your weaponry. So you can take heart there, but no, he's absolutely, when the weapons are flying, which side he's on, and I think it made complete sense.
All right. Thank you, Ruth and Bruce. Miss Goodbye replied to you by saying he doesn't have any visible blight, but I don't know what else to call citizens of the Demon Kingdom. And that's what I wanted to say and reply to that too, basically. When I say demon, he's part of the demons or anything like that. Like, I don't mean he's literally a demon. I mean he's part of the Demon Kingdom, It's hard to say what you'd call someone who's not visibly affected by the blight, but is nominally or more than nominally a citizen of the Demon Kingdom.
I think that's fair, but I also think that we're going to need some words for them as they get more people on their side, as I hope happens over the next thing. And if nothing else, the various Earthers that are there are there. So I think we're going to need to need that, even if we don't have those words now.
We probably will, when we get more of a look into them, whenever that happens, we'll probably get it. We'll probably get that kind of terminology thrown around, which I think is probably going to be in the New Lands arc. That's apparently the New Lands arc is the direct continuation of these Horns chapters. So, and those have already dealt with the demons, so they probably will deal with them even more. Yeah, we might see more of how they term that all. Since there is that demon outpost in the New Lands. I forgot. I've kind of forgotten a little bit about it. But Kel says he can be an ally without being a demon or an agent of the Demon Kingdom. That's true. He definitely could be, rather than a citizen or whatever you want to call someone who's like directly affiliated with the Demon Kingdom. He could more just be an outside ally. Though I do think the fact that he has so many contacts within the Demon Kingdom makes him a little more closer than just an ally. But, it could go either way, honestly. That's not definitive in any way. Bouquet says, do you think Colt pointed the slaves towards that demon camp or some other group that was just going to free the slaves? I don't think it's directly towards the demon camp. I think he probably had a group waiting in the distance. Because, just like operational security, if Koth just points them at the demon camp and Rochelle follows those slaves while they run towards the demon camp, it's like Koth just gave away the big beans right there. But yeah, I think it's more likely that it's just a group that was sent to a nondescript location that were put there to potentially pick up any slaves that come their way. And then escort them to the New Lands, or wherever the heck they want to go. Wovlu says, Colt's smile is called a capital D Desmond smile. So that is a thing. Is that an actual thing? I don't know if you're joking with me. I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. Oh, you misspelled demons. Okay, never mind. Okay. I can't. Okay, I can't. Thank you, Kel, for pointing that out to me. Anyways, one thing we didn't talk about with Kolth is there is a theory, and Tavar pointed this out in live chat, but there is a theory that Kolth might be the fourth Deathless. He might be the Deathless that Rochal's Pattern Lord picked up on. And I'm not sure I'm behind that theory. He's not at the level of a Deathless. Let's just be real here. He's not a Deathless in terms of just a power perspective, I guess you could say. And at the same time, if he's developing into a Deathless, would he be like picked up by the Pattern Lord? I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to say whether or not that would have picked him up. But yeah, I think that it's an interesting theory. I just don't know if it has meat on its bones. Escapade says, that seems crazy to me. No way he's a death. And Rhythm Brews, you want to speak?
So, as the person who mostly as a joke called him the death of friends, or death of friendship in the stream, I thought it. I agree with you. He doesn't have the raw personal power of a death. He's not there. I don't think he is kind of a prodigy that I could see as being on that path on the whole, because he's leveling at a fairly prodigious rate. I think that the Pattern Lord would would pick out a potential death. I feel like that's not in the realm of impossibility. The problem is that even if he's on the path to it, he's still 20 levels short of sort of the minimum entry. If named rank is 40s, I don't think you get to be a death, certainly less than 60 and probably 70, because probably 60 is where I'd say is the low end entry for deaths, given that Slovenia's in the 80s and the other two established ones are in the 70s. You'd think that maybe a new low power death would be in the 60s. So it feels like he's a long way off, but it fits the arc of him, but the timeline doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, that's kind of how
without a
I'm
big
feeling.
boost.
That's kind of how I'm feeling, in that if he wanted to be considered a death, he would need to be older. Well, not older. He'd need to be higher level, which kind of dictates him being older. But whatever. But yeah, he'd need to be higher level, basically, for me to see him as a death.
I will say that if he was going that route, the thing that could put him over the edge actually might be if he becomes the diplomatic link between the Demon Kingdom and everybody else who might be their allies.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good thought.
Because that would put him, even if he doesn't have the levels, that might put him in a position of doing something big and world shaking and unique enough to the Demon Kingdom to be considered like have a seat at that table kind of level. If like he's the one that everyone else talks to.
Yeah. My biggest issue with the whole theory is is still that the Pattern Lord saw a fourth Deathless. They didn't see, in the future there's going to be 4 Deathless. The Pattern Lord isn't a predictive class. It's showing what is in the world right now through numbers. And if he is right now a Deathless, I don't buy that too much. That's my biggest issue with it. Tavar says Kolth is not that high level. He's 47-ish in his main class, but we don't know if he has multiple other high classes. We also don't know how powerful he'd get if he was supporting someone like Slovenia. That's true. We've only seen him supporting, people close-ish in levels to him. He's supported people like Salus and Elder Tulin and Mihaela, who are, Salus and Mihaela are definitely higher level than him, but they're probably not, 20 levels higher than him. He could be a very big force multiplier if he's supporting someone even higher level. Bookcase says, I think the more likely possibility is that it's a ghost of a death that has been preserved by Sylvania or through some other means. Tavares says, my guess is that one of the rezzed Rochelle people is actually going to Trader or Nurhavia / someone from Deadlands. Miss Kpai says, I feel like the floor for a death is level 70. I don't think potentially being an important figure in the kingdom makes him a death. The Demon King isn't considered a death. Death's defining feature is a combat power. And Bookcase says, I'm thinking Ghost is the other death, or it's that chief giant. And Rhythm Brew says, one final thought, what if Kolth is faking being as low power as he is? I was thinking about that, Rhythm Brews, that he could be faking his power, but that's kind of hard to fake, but it could be possible. It seems out there in terms of possibility. But on theories about the Deathless and who it could be, I actually have a really cracked theory right now that I like. I feel like the Death of Voices or the Death of Dust, one or the other. Though I'm leaning towards the Death of Voices simply because of the name. I feel like they might have infected one of, or not infected. Well, infected word. Infected either Zelkir or his golem when they killed him, or when they killed the Death, and they've kind of taken over Zelkir, or they've taken over the golem that killed the Death of Voices / Dust. I kind of. And that's why Zelkir is not shown his face in so long, because Zelkir right now is either dead or he's being taken over by the Death. That's my crack theory. And as to whether or not he's being there's a ghost of a death being preserved by Sylvania, the one thing is, if Sylvania had a ghost of a death, I feel like we would have heard about it by now. The fact that we haven't heard about it from the demon side, but we've heard about it from Rochelle, it makes me think Rochelle was it makes me think that the demons do not know that there's a fourth Deathless still alive right now. That's kind of where I'm coming from, is that Rochelle is picking up on something weird that the demons don't even know about. Rhythm Brew says, Zelkir was also the name that came to mind when you asked for a name. Yeah, Zelkir is a very big mystery right now, and it kind of fits. Maybe. Who knows, though? Tavar says, as Death of Terandria / Knights, Sylvania fought demons originally, and he has the levels. The one thing is, Azkrash does not like the Demon Kingdom. He still views them as his enemy. So if he was going to become one of the Deaths, he would need to change his mind, or his mind needed to have been changed at some point that we just haven't heard about, which is possible. Maybe when he woke up to his emotions / his human side some more, he reevaluated his opinion of the Demon Kingdom. Mystical Bias says he was involved in the death of the other two deaths with Zelkir, wasn't he? Yes, he was there when the other two Deathless died. And when Sylvania was injured, when Kazatha and all of them were injured too. He was part of that. Crunk says, it's unlikely, but Az could be in possession of one of the Death's ghosts. I don't believe we've learned which powerful ghosts he has trapped away. That's a good point. But, well, yeah, that's just a good point. It could be a Death's ghost. It could be. Bookcase says, oh crap, what if he's the fourth Death because it's in his class name? Undying Lich Myth of Death and Vengeance. That would really fit with the whole numbers thing, because number, that kind of number outlook on life is completely nonsense in the real world, and so it'd be especially funny if Pirate Abbott just pulled the rug out from under us and said, "Oh, that number lord is actually just looking at this guy as another death because his class has death in it." Yeah. I don't actually think that's how it's going to go. It was given too much gravity for it to be a rug pull. Mystical Pie says they presumably died on Rehere, meaning there would be no ghost left. It's true that they did die there, and that means they most likely don't have a ghost. But at the same time, we did see the gods walk through the Deadlands in Rehere, so it's theoretically possible that a ghost could have escaped out of Rehere. Theoretically, I'm not going to say it's 100% possible or it's even likely, but I do think you can't just discount it. Tavar says, Pirate is notoriously bad at numbers. Wink, wink, hee hee. Yes, I know. Kel says, I thought the dead gods avoided Rehere because Sleepy eats everything there. Yes, they do avoid it because Sleepy eats everything, but they could go there. Like, they went there at one point in Volume 8, and it set off the demons, the Deathless, and Mirex. It was during that whole conversation that the dead gods were snooping around in Rehere Deadlands. So it's possible to go to Rehere's Deadlands and not get eaten, at least for the dead gods. So I think it's not out of the realms of possibilities that a ghost or two have escaped from Rehere over the ages. Bookcase says Sleepy would be a threat to the gods because she is half mortal, which is why they don't get close to her. Yeah, I think she's just a threat to them in general. I don't know why she's a threat to them. Probably because she's more alive than them. Half mortality could be it too. All right. I think Kel says also because she has a body, according to Zyner. Yeah, that's the half mortal part. Gives you a body, basically, I feel like. But Bookcase says, does Sleepy not have a wiki page? She might have a wiki page, but it probably isn't called Sleepy, if I had to guess. Maybe you could find it under the Rehere page? Maybe? I'm looking. Okay, there's a mention of the god being buried under Rehere, but there is no page link. That's very odd, actually. I'm kind of surprised there is no page for Sleepy. You should make one, Bookcase. Anyways, that's it for the discussion in terms of the recorded portion. This was a discussion for 9.49. Yeah, I'm going to end